I'm back to show you how to pull a handle off a mug. I'm sitting outside on my deck, enjoying a little bit of this beautiful spring air in North Carolina, also pulling a little bit of the mess outside. Pulling handles can be a little drippy, a little messy. And before I get into that, I wanted to show you another thing I've been doing. I've been making little clay stamps. This one is a paw print that I've been using to personalize mugs for pet owners. And you carve it out of clay and then fire it and it becomes a stamp. Another one that I've been doing is, this one's going off to California, and I've taken the state outline and carved it. And if I were to pull a handle off of a personalized mug, I would be very intentional about placing that handle directly behind or across, and I would use my rib tool to kind of eyeball it, and it also then creates a little groove or little marking there from which I'll use to continue scoring to attach the handle. The mugs need to be setting up and be a kind of a leather hard state, and I make these little starts for the handles that are also better, I think, if you've done them where they've set up a little bit. So what I'll do is I'll make these starts and I'll pull as many as I need. If I'm throwing if I'm thrown 5 mugs, and I'll pull 5 of these starts. And I have this fat coil that I taper down, and then we'll dip it into water, get my hand wet, and then I just pull down in order to lengthen and get about 3.5 inches or so. Don't really need to worry about the shape at this point. It's more just getting a little stub that you'll use to pull off of the handle, pull off of the mug handle. So from there, you just take your 3.5 inches, you cut it, make a bunch of these, let them set up, and then you can attach them. So I'm going to use one that I've already let set up a little bit, and it doesn't take long, especially if you're outside in the dry air. They set up quickly. But I like them to be a little bit stiffer so they're not so flip-floppy around. So here I had that mark where I made, this one doesn't matter. I'm going to do something different with these. In fact, I'm going to show my next video what I'm going to do with these. But I'll take my little ribbing, my little scoring tool here, little rib that has these little hatch marks, and I will crisscross and either grab a little bit of slip that's left over, probably from the bucket when I threw, or a dab of water, not much. Same thing to the handle end that's going to be attached. Make a little scoring mark and moisten a little bit. So I've got my point at the top, at the rim, and my point right here. I kind of do it right where it breaks and line up for the top and the bottom. I place my hand on the inside and give it some support so that I can take this and actually press down and kind of work that clay down into the base of the mug, taking some of the clay and working it into the side, a tiny dab of water to kind of moisten it. It attaches pretty quickly, and I'll continue to kind of feather out some of these marks when I'm pulling it off. It's attached, and this is what I meant about when they're kind of setting up a little bit, then they're not so apt to flip-flop around. So now I can take it and turn it, dip it in the bucket, and I don't have to worry about it losing its shape. My hand again inside, but the opposite way, dipping it in just right to below the rim. Don't get the rim wet. Get the handle wet and your hand wet, And this is the point where I'm also just kind of smoothing out those lines from having worked that into the mug base. So smoothing it out, not really pulling yet. Smoothing, and now starting to get just a little bit of that motion going. And it's the pinching between your thumb and your back finger. And then I have my hand here to be able to rotate it and turn it. I like to do it from both directions, kind of even it out. The other one that I'll do is my 2 fingers and just pull down, kind of flattens it a little bit, both sides. Maybe get in there on the sides a little bit to make sure it's not. And I'll probably just be one more time getting up in here, and this point right here, I'll try to really take my thumb and kind of create that curve. So being more mindful of getting in here and starting that curve. And this will be my last time, and I'll hold it right here, tipping the base and letting it rest on my hand while I flip it over and then set it down. And while it's setting down, it stays there. I kind of place this in the crook of my arm so I can change my hand position back to this direction. And I have now my free hand. I don't like to use this hand to grab the mug because then you get all this slurry all over your mug. And that's never pretty. So let's see. Making sure that you've got the right length and placement, aligning it, looking at it from both sides to see that it's straight down. And once you determine if that's what you want, kind of taking this finger and pressing in, and the thumb and this finger squeezing and pinching. So it's like kind of a pressing down and squeezing and pinching and pulling off. Pressing down, kind of squeezing on the sides and pinching off that little excess that's there. You're left with something that looks like that. And at this point, I just leave it. Don't try to get in there and start manipulating and fine-tuning. You'll create a goopy, tacky mess. So you just let it be. You just let it be and until it's set up and is about leather hard. I think I have one here that I did not too long ago, and especially now that I'm here outside, it does set up pretty quickly. And yeah, it's no longer as tacky, so I can take this little piece of, of kind of where the clay was pulled off, and I can kind of smooth it down, smooth it, round it out a little bit. And really what I do is I take another one of my stamps that I've made, and I use it to sort of make a mark, a little finishing mark right here at the end of the mug. And I will just take it and sort of mold it and shape it around. The other thing this does is it kind of gives it one last opportunity to really compress and attach to the mug. I don't know how well that shows, but it gives it a small little detail, little finishing touch. And that's the last thing you do before you sign it. And let them dry up. Drying up, let me just put out one more word of caution on that. Because the handles are so much wetter, you can see the difference, probably how shiny that is. And this is much more leather hard. You want those two to dry slowly, or you want this to dry slowly. So I usually cover them overnight so that it gives the handle an opportunity to catch up to the state of the leather hard mug. If they dry too fast and they're not the same, you know, drying states, then you'll get a crack and the handle will fall off, and that's never fun. It's a huge disappointment. So I usually cover them overnight and let them catch up to the same drying, and then once they're dried up, you fire them and glaze them. And then the next thing I'm going to show is another technique I use with a slip, a white slip. So enjoy making handles, pulling handles. You can pull them off the mug. You can make them lots of different ways and attach them the same way, but try the pulling and see if it doesn't work for you. All right, thanks for watching. Bye.